Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. So base building, quantum, death of a spaceman, all major features we are all eagerly awaiting. Well, yesterday Chris Roberts, Tony Zurevec and Todd Papy held an AMA over on Spectrum to answer some of our burning questions, and let me break that down for you now. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members who allow me to make these kinds of videos. So we're going to kick off with what I thought was the most exciting question and answer, which is basically what is the current thinking for base building. Now Chris went on to explain that one of the benefits of the icache is full persistence, which will record and restore where you dropped a coffee cup, be that on top of a mountain on a planet, or on a shelf in your hab, or a building that you have just constructed. With icache, things are changing, and instead of just building a singular outpost, we will be able to place down various structures and connect them to things like power generators, turrets, resource collectors, hydroponic domes, and so on. They have been working on tools to build settlements and homesteads, both for the devs in kind of an RTS style and for players in first person, and are now rethinking that the Pioneer will be more flexible rather than just spitting out prefabricated outposts. It'll be more like a mobile fabrication facility that would be near your building site, using it to build structures without having to ship in component parts as long as you have a supply of raw materials. So you won't need a Pioneer to build a homestead, but you will need one if you want to build, say, a settlement or something quickly as opposed to flying in prefabricated components from major landing zones. He said they need the icache working well before we get to see this, so expect to see more updates on this later next year. This is the exact direction and beyond that I thought and hoped they would go. The Pioneer still being useful, but instead of it plonking out outposts, it creates things I assume like walls, roofs and so on. Players can buy these prefabbed items, I expect, from landing zones and place them in their ships and then build them themselves planet-side without the need or without the help of a Pioneer. But it also means that not just the current outposts we've seen, but many of the other styles CIG are creating will be made available to us. Now I will delve much further into the subject in a separate video, so do subscribe if you want to see that. But it is definitely expanding in the direction that I have been wanting it to for a long while, and I think people are very much going to enjoy base building when that comes. Even the simplistic start of building your own little home is going to be a lot of fun. Anyway, next question was Theatres of War, what is happening? Now they said it's currently being worked on and tested, and ideally they would want Sean Tracy and Richard Tyra to give an update on this once it is ready for everyone to play. But I will chime in and say that the last Ivocati play session was a lot of fun compared to the first play session, and it was night and day better. So the next time that we see it, be that Ivocati Wave 1, PTU, or open to everybody on live servers, I expect it'll be even better than what it was back then. Hopefully we are not waiting too long, as I really crave playing it again. Anyway, next question. What is needed to have random FPS AI on planets? Now they need some planetary nav mesh work to be done, and they have a fair amount of it completed already. Once that is done, they can start to implement it into missions or random encounters, and when it is complete, AI will be able to transition from ship to surface smoothly, and this will open up for adding creatures like space cows or larger animals, or even things like boids, like small creatures, frogs, birds and so on. I personally think that once they have the ability for AI to go planet-side, it'll really liven up the verse and open up potential mission types and mission outcomes. Hopefully this nav mesh work is nearly done. It will be great battling the AI planet-side in these open vistas and forests around Microtech and Hurston. I cannot wait. Someone asked what is happening with the death of a spaceman, as it was concepted in 2013 and we have heard nothing more since. I have linked the original Death of a Spaceman post below. It is worth reading, but again, this was 2013, so there might be some changes coming in. Now, Chris Roberts says that later this month there is going to be a Calling All Devs episode based completely on Death of a Spaceman with him and Richard Tyra, and we'll go through the current plans, which we will begin to see the results of mid next year as they begin to bring in medical gameplay. They said watch out for that, and they will go into the current design which is ready for implementation. So there's a couple of juicy bits in there. Firstly, I'm very happy to hear that they are readdressing it, as I'm sure a lot has changed since 2013, but I do expect the core premise to remain as it was. It was an important direction, I feel, limiting player lives, as it will affect so much down the line. And secondly, the medical gameplay coming next year is good to know. Now I would expect to see a down state and the ability to maybe use med pens on other players coming sometime this year, early next, before they start delving into the medical career, just to make it a little bit more user-friendly or quality of life for us. But like every Star Citizen career, it is going to be quite deep. Next up, how do you envision NPC Crew gameplay? Now, the first steps, they said, are to build out the player functionality to these roles, like being a captain or an engineer on board your ship. They do currently have some of those AI functions, like flying a ship, but they still need to build the glue for the AI. Like, what will they do when they're off duty? The ship's captain or owner will need a way to set what roles they want an NPC to do, and they also need a way for how the captain will interface with the AI to issue commands like flying to a location or attacking a specific target. And they are still planning to allow players to take remote control of NPCs. That is something they dropped in right at the end there. So there's quite a bit to take in. A lot of the work they are doing on Squadron 42 with the AI, which I put into a video thanks to the Squadron 42 monthly reports, will drive the AI crew behaviors and their abilities and traits. So that is actually coming along very, very quickly. This idea of players taking remote control of NPCs means that I think if your friend has hired an NPC for their ship, you will be able to take control of that NPC and become that NPC to join your friend on their ship. But this will still mean that the NPC is not your character and that NPC will need to be paid. I know it's confusing, but it does sound like it could work quite well, especially if your friend's on the other end of the verse and it will take you hours to get to where he is. Being able to just jump in as one of his crew members and play together will be good, but obviously your character, your actual character, won't benefit from any of that. Next question, what is the plans for blades and slaving turrets and such? Now, blades are hardware devices or software that slot into or load onto your ship's computer and allow you to kind of automate certain functions, like making a turret automated. Todd Papy listed quite a few ideas that they have for certain blades, which I will briefly read through them, but I will likely do a more in-depth video at some point, as they did have little descriptions for them. So we have missile defense systems, encryption and decryption blades for data running, emissions controller, offensive and defensive e-war blades, mining blades, salvaging blades, criminal database blades for bounty hunting, and the opposite of that being a hit list for pirates, enhanced route navigation blades, trade databases, shield management blades, stellar charting system blades, item lock blades, cargo manifest maskers for smuggling, internal security systems, and drone management. As I say, I will address these in a later video because they do deserve their own dedicated video, but all of this is sounding pretty exciting, and I guess that's just scraping the surface of what we might see. Next question is what is left for dynamic missions. Now, one of the larger remaining issues relates to the current mission UI and associated logic, which is needing to be converted to the new building blocks UI tech. This is why we haven't seen any updated service beacon options. Quantum is starting to inject some of its simulation data into the backend services, which the dynamic mission service needs to make these customized missions available. Dynamic events are routed through the same system and are a bit more mature, and the first demo of this tech that we got to see was Fleet Week, where the UEE would come in with their capital ships. They are in the process of constructing more of these dynamic scenarios, some of which they said will be far more sophisticated. I know they've spoken in the past regarding bringing in other service beacons, like being able to refuel. So once this mission UI is converted, we should see quite an influx of new missions, but the real win will be these dynamic missions. Nice segue into the next question, which is an update on Quantum, this Quantum system. They have spent a lot of time optimizing the simulation and are now doing tests with as many as 2 million Quanta. Quanta being the simulated AI on the back end going about their sort of day-to-day tasks. But it does look like they won't need that many. They will only need maybe 100,000 per system to get the desired effects. Now, they've started to connect some select bits of the simulated data to the backend services that feed the game servers with things like fuel and repair prices, encounter types and frequencies, and service beacons. These are all first in line. This will have some dramatic effect on gameplay experience, and it'll mean that previous desperate things like pirate activity, calls for help, and the price of repairs in an area will finally start to feel like they're all connected. It does sound like the system is going very well. I suggest watching last year's CitizenCon panel with Tony Zurevec called Building a Dynamic Universe if you want to learn more about what this quantum system is, what the quanta is, what probability volumes are. But we have heard that this system is expected to come online towards the end of next year, so hopefully we will see some benefits of it early on. but it'll definitely be worth waiting for. Next question is, what professions are you looking forward to and what's coming next? Tony Z is particularly interested in bounty hunting and knows that the current bounty hunting missions are nothing like how they want them to be in the end. There are some major enhancements planned to make the hunting aspect a much larger challenge. This will be the first usage of the virtual NPC tech, which allows NPC characters to go about their lives regardless of whether any players are in the vicinity or not. And a new UI will allow bounty hunters to register and receive select bits of information to help with pursuing a bounty, like feedback from comrades, air traffic controllers, and NPC informants. Now, if you want to learn more about the intended bounty hunting mechanic, I have linked my video in the description which goes into detail about the tracking and apprehension of bounties from both a hunter and prey angle. This was taken from Tony Zurovec's CitizenCon panel, I think 2 years ago or maybe 3 years ago, called By Design. So if you want to hear more about what their planning is, watch my video and do watch his panel as well. It is fascinating stuff. So next question, with all the systems and planets etc. left to make, how long do you think it will take? Now currently they are building up the tools, knowledge and people power to be able to deliver the systems quicker. Tool development being the main advantage, which we have seen already how they can speed up the process. For example, one moon used to take about a year to create, now it takes 2 weeks, with the same goal coming for space stations. They are building up the asset packs, so think along the lines of planetary biomes, and once you have created these, it can then be used again via the procedural generation and brush tools to avoid repetition. Once these assets are built up, they can then put locations and planets together much quicker. Putting gameplay hooks into the locations will take some time, but it will make locations feel special, and they are trying to build up the team to deliver solar systems in one drop versus the current iterative approach. Now I know it's hard to believe that this will speed up, but expecting things to continue at the same speed is just as difficult, if not more difficult to believe in my opinion, so it'll be interesting to see just how quickly they can create a full system. Next question is to do with data running and hacking. What is going on? Now they say they currently have higher priorities like big physicalized cargo. Once that's done, we might see that come along later. Someone asked regarding Squadron 42, what is happening in specifically in regards to the beta. Now today there will be a new show called The Briefing Room, which is a Squadron 42 dedicated show. This will air every quarter until Squadron 42 releases, where they will address all of our questions, and with the new upcoming roadmap as well, this will help shine some light on Squadron 42's production. He did say that we still have ways to go before they are in beta, but he is unwilling to compromise the game's quality by releasing it before it's ready. Now I'm really excited to see this show, and it'll be great to get some regular updates and hear and see what is happening. Since we last heard with Squadron, I am very excited, but yeah, I'm happy to wait as long as it's going to be done to a good standard. So next question is, what are the plans to make missions less repetitive and more engaging? And they say they're going to use mission modifiers and leveraging their unique locations. Using a basic cargo delivery mission from an outpost to a space station as an example, adding in one or multiple of these basic modifiers will change it up quite a bit. And the suggestions they gave were things like FPS AI want the crate from you, or ship AI want the crate from you, volatile cargo crates, hostile locations for picking up or dropping off the crate, and so on. Obviously there will be a lot more modifiers, but this is what they're going to bring into missions, which will dynamically change the missions each time you take one on. Next question, are there random world events planned? And they say yes, this is a major area of focus. They call these dynamic events, and there are multiple ones already in progress and will ramp them up even more next year. Expect to see some events triggered dynamically and others activated by them manually, but most will allow for customization, so the amount of variety with even the modest library of such scenarios will be pretty significant. They said the ultimate plan is to periodically break up the routine with distinct events that serve to draw a lot of players to common causes. Again, like what we've seen with, I suppose, the Fleet Week, and also this new October challenge, causing people to try and get masks and stuff. I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to seeing more. Would you implement Pyro without server meshing is the next question. And they say the current plan is to release both at the same time. So it does look like they're going to bring Pyro next year, as I don't think server meshing is coming this year. I did have my reservations on Pyro for this year, so never mind. Next question, how deep are you planning to go with the ship pipes and resources throughout the ships? and will this apply to stations and outposts? And they said the plan is to go pretty in depth, where we will be rerouting power and or physically replacing an item to keep the ship up and running. It is the same plans for space stations and outposts, but depending on the setup, certain functions may or may not be accessible to the player. For example, if you go to an NPC-ran major space station, I assume things like Bajani Point or Everus Harbour, then we won't have access to turn off the gravity or life support. And now the final question, 3.12 brings push and pull and tractor beams. Will we be using these to move cargo on and off our ships? Now Tony Zurafek says allowing cargo to be manually extracted from ships is high on their list of priorities and will be possible via the tractor beam, but does require some revisions to the cargo grid system to make it compatible with local storage and icache. Now I really hope that with them planning to get push and pull in 3.12 and obviously receiving cargo decks already in 3.11, that they are hopeful for the icache to be implemented this year, or at least get some persistent benefits to allow physicalized cargo. I believe this is what they're hoping to achieve, but they just can't guarantee it yet, so time will obviously tell. Anyway, that was quite an impressive AMA, and I am very excited for not just the future, but the very near future. Once icache is done, we will see some major expansions in many areas of the game, and it is pretty much all hands on deck for the devs right now working on these back-end systems. It may mean that we suffer content-wise, like what we've seen in 3.11, but so far the 3.11 build is such a good patch in terms of quality of life, and I'm really enjoying it. Just want to say a big happy birthday to Star Citizen, and thank you to CIG and Chris Roberts for all the hard work over the years. I'll be seeing you in the comment section of the Squadron 42 Briefing Rooms video later, I am sure. But with that said, when we reach 30,000 subscribers, we will be giving away a Star Runner, so be sure to hit subscribe and tick that notification bell if you want to be notified when my videos go live. Also hit that thumbs up button if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour. And if you want to talk more about this, do head over to twitch.tv/supermacbrothers where we will discuss it further while I'm live, I'm sure. Again, a big thank you to my patrons and channel members. I cannot do these videos without you guys, so thank you so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.